And to every new plea from the citizen, over all these years of trying, the doorkeeper's response was always the same. It's possible, but not at the moment. Now I'm going to quote directly from Franz Kafka himself, and this is towards the end of the story. During these many years, the man fixes his attention almost continuously on the doorkeeper. He forgets the other doorkeepers, and this one seems to him to be the sole obstacle preventing his access to the law. At length, his eyesight begins to fail. He does not know whether the world is really darker or whether his eyes are only deceiving him. Yet in his darkness, he's now aware of a radiance that streams inextinguishably from the gateway of the law. He hasn't very long to live. Before he dies, all his experiences in these long years gather themselves in his head to one single point, to a question that he has not yet asked the doorkeeper. He beckons to the doorkeeper, and the doorkeeper bends low to place his ear to the man's quivering lips, saying, "What do you want to know now? You are insatiable." And the man licks his dry lips and asks, "Everyone strives to reach the law, so how does it happen that in all these many years, no one but myself has ever begged for admittance?" And the doorkeeper jerks upright to about half height, clearly surprised, and he answers, no one else could ever be admitted here, for this gate is only for you. I'm now going to shut it." I love that story, I always have. I love it for its obvious message, but I love it more for the thoughts it stirs in me about the role of the key players in the law, the gatekeepers, and those players beyond the doorkeepers and before the doorkeeper, before the law. So if you can picture that scene still, or again, the citizen and the doorkeeper standing on a stone bridge in front of the castle walls with a large open door to the law, and the citizen waiting, attempting to get access to the law. Where's the lawyer in that scene in your mind? The traditional view of the lawyer would have him standing, or him or her standing beside the citizen, arguing the citizen's case for them. In fact, I see this traditional role in the same way that I can remember Nepalese taxi drivers when I arrived in Kathmandu airport about 15 years ago. They sort of line the stairs at the airport as you come out of the airport. The stairs go down to the street, and they're on both sides, and they attack you like crows, if you like, all arguing to get a fare. And the idea is they secure a fare to get you to Kathmandu or beyond, and then they determine what the fare will be. So I see lawyers in a very similar way. Like those taxi drivers, they wait at the door to the law. For citizens, you might hire them as advocates, and once they're engaged, the lawyers then decide the paths that will be taken, the price of the trip, the length of the journey. They'll use all their standard lawyerly arguments and tricks to achieve the same sort of cookie-cutter results that they had in prior cases. They wait for customers, drop them off in some confusing cul-de-sac, and then they go back for more. This is admittedly a bit of a cartoonish version of lawyers, but I'm sure you get my point. I think that lawyers can and should play a bigger role than that. And with that scene of the citizen and the doorkeeper still in mind, I'd like to pose a key question and make a progressive suggestion. The question is a multi-part question as usual with me. Joe would recognise that from me. The question is, what's happening for that citizen, that client, before they got to the door of the law? How did they get there? Why are they there in the first place? And what happened to cause their need for the law's intercession? So what are the circumstances that led them to that point? And my suggestion is that rather than waiting for them at the door of the law, lawyers can and should walk with their clients. So I'd stress that, walk with rather than necessarily work with. So walk with their clients to understand these things, the causes of their clients' needs, what might happen to a client, what the consequences might be in the client's terms rather than the system's terms, in the client's life context, what might happen to them once they've exited the legal system carrying whatever outcome or experience the law has given them. So in my view, lawyers can and should go through that process. And at this point, I need to farewell Franz Kafka and introduce a couple of other compadres, Paulo Freire and Antonio Gramsci. Many of you might know Antonio Gramsci. He's there. He was an Italian political scientist and theorist. And the lesson I take from Gramsci's teachings relevant to my topic today is that lawyers have a responsibility as agents of change to work with their clients in their client's life context as equals towards changes that will benefit their clients and benefit society generally. And it's this working together, working alongside, that both enables and legitimises the work that lawyers can do to create change rather than maintain an existing system. And that again is a very cartoonish, sort of basic, selective interpretation of Gramsci's views, but I can encourage you to look for Gramsci and look at his broader views. But I think that it's relevant in instructive from a central point today that lawyers can take a broader role than the traditional role that has been shaped for them. Gramsci talks about how this can be done and why it should be done. Paulo Freire, a little more modern, doesn't quite, looks a bit like Santa Claus, but he's actually, or was, a Brazilian educator who created what's known as the liberationist theory of education. And he'd agree with Gramsci's views, I think. Freire talked about what he called conscientisation of communities and clients. That is, awareness raising through critical inquiry and for transformative action of both the situation for individuals, groups they live in, communities and society generally. So it's about a transformative process. He spoke about the right of those that we work with, or for, to what he called name the world, to use concepts and terms familiar and relevant to them, to examine their situation, to discover the causes of their problems and their needs, and to determine the most sustainable solutions in their terms, to articulate those problems, needs and solutions, and to advocate for and enact those solutions as well. In a sentence, Freire was saying, it's their right to choose, it's not ours. So with these sketches of the wisdom of Gramsci and Freire, and with the image of the ordinary citizen approaching the door to the law and its doorkeeper firmly in mind, I'd like to suggest that there are 4 fundamental tasks for lawyers. The first is to understand why clients need the law, why their clients are presenting with the problems that they do, what circumstances have led to this. In Kafka's story, to go down into the village, to live with the people there, to build the knowledge and the credibility which will allow them as lawyers to support those people through the system and to achieve the goals that those people have set for themselves. And again, Gramsci will help you in terms of the how-to for this. Secondly, it's a fundamental task for lawyers to assist clients to analyse society and its legal system as it currently is, to identify how the structure of society has contributed to their problems, and to support clients to articulate in their terms what they want, where they want to get to, what they want out of the system, what change they need, and what they would like to see. And Paulo Freire can guide you in that task. The third task is for lawyers to inform clients of their options to getting to where they would like to be, and to inform them about the possible consequences of each option, what might happen and why. And again, Freire is relevant and helpful in this task. He describes a how-to for that process. The fourth and final fundamental task in my view is that lawyers should walk with their clients through the legal system and its processes, assisting them to gain an outcome that they can live with, regardless of whether it's the outcome that they set out to achieve, regardless of whether it's what they wanted in the first place, or what they or you think is best for them. And again, Gramsci will help you to work on that. So where is this walking with process more possible?